And we're back. And again, briefly, for those of you joining us for the first time, what we're trying to do here is pull the 7 possible textbooks that they use to make your test into some cohesive package you can actually understand. And most of you do not have the time to read 7 textbooks of 800 to 1,000 pages apiece. And most of you don't have the money to buy 7 textbooks at about $200 a piece. Okay? That's a lot of money, $1,400. It's a lot of time to read 7 textbooks. Now, I never read 7 textbooks when I was in school, but I was very fortunate. When I went to school back 1,000 years ago, we still had, candles, and we took our notes on a stone tablet, it seems like, compared to today. My teacher had actually been Adolf Hitler's barber. And it wasn't hard to believe that when you saw her in action. She was about 4 feet tall and 5 feet wide. Her name was Crystal. She was funny. She was a genius. Okay. She had gone to college in Germany for 6 years. She had a huge amount of experience and learning behind her. And she literally pounded into our head everything. I didn't realize at the time how lucky I really was, because I didn't have anything to compare her to. Just like you don't have anybody to compare your teachers to. And I will tell you, quite frankly, most of the teachers come up very short. They don't know what they're talking about. Or if they do know what they're talking about, they just don't bother to talk about it. So whether they don't know or they don't care, at the end of the day, they shouldn't be your teacher. But you don't know that until you walk into the test site and you suddenly sit down. You don't know anything on the test. Okay? You feel like you've never even seen these questions before, which quite frankly is true, you haven't. It all goes back to the teacher. But we can't do anything about the bad teachers. Okay? We can try to help you overcome that. We have this book. It's about 125 pages. It's nothing but questions and answers from your state board test. It gives you the question, it gives you the 4 possible answer choices, then it gives you the correct answer, and below that, it tells you what textbook and what page and what year edition the question came from. It even gives you the times the textbooks contradict themselves. Milady says one thing, Pivot Point says something else. You don't know which textbook your question is going to come from, so you need to understand when the textbooks contradict each other. And they do. A rough guess, 10 or 15 times. I could think of examples right today. I don't have time to give them all to you. If you really need all those examples of when the textbooks contradict each other, and you need to know both answers because you don't know which textbook your question came from, give us a call. We do private tutoring. It's 6 classes, whether you're a barber or cosmetologist. Each class is approximately 1 hour in length. It's done through the phone with you and the instructor, so it's very private. It's no one but you and the instructor. If you have an Apple phone, it's done through FaceTime. An Android, it's done through WhatsApp. Okay, we can handle either way. We will walk you through every chapter on the test and tell you page by page, underline this or highlight this. We'll even give you the things that are not in your textbook. They're called industry knowledge questions. Things they just think you should know, even though they're not in your textbook. One that comes to mind because it's so frequent is the use of a round-toothed comb. A round-toothed comb. If you find that in the textbook, you call me and tell me, because I have looked through all 7 books and I cannot find it. But it is a very common test question under a subject they call industry knowledge. Now, today's class is on skin diseases and disorders. This is a nightmare unless you know what to study. You want to understand the 3 levels of your skin: the epidermis, the dermis, and the subcutaneous. There are only 2 questions on the epidermis. It's the top, outermost, thinnest layer of your skin. Most of the questions come from the dermis, which is called the true skin. There's always 1 question on the subcutaneous, also called adipose tissue. Most of the questions in this chapter have to do with the sweat glands and the oil glands. Now, if you speak Spanish, the sweat glands are kind of a gimme. Sudor, sudoriferous glands, the Spanish word for sweat. Spanish comes from Latin. Our entire medical system comes from Latin. The sudoriferous glands, S-U-D-O-R-I-F-E-R-O-U-S. The sudoriferous glands are your sweat glands. The sebaceous glands are your oil glands. And there will be questions about the issues and problems of both the sweat glands and the oil glands. For barbers, one of the most common questions has to do with the word called osteotosis. Okay? It is the partial or complete lack of oil on your skin. Strangely enough, it's not even in the cosmetology book, although it's frequently on the cosmetology exam. Again, they expect you to know things which are not even in your book. It comes from one of the other 6 books, osteotosis. There's always a question about lesions, primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary. You don't need to understand 3 pages or 4 pages in your book of medical terminology, but you will need to understand the difference in the 4 different levels of lesions. Okay? Skin color. Melanin is the pigment making your skin color. There's a question or 2 about melanin. Finally, there's skin cancer, something which one day is very heavily tested, the next day is not tested at all, which is why you cannot rely on what your friend told you about his or her test, because your test will be different than their test. I absolutely guarantee you. I get people tell me every day, well, I know there were 2 tests or 3 tests or 7 tests. You don't know anything, I'm sorry to say, okay? There's about 1,000 questions in the State Board's computer. They are going to push a button and your test will pop out. So there's not 2 or 3 or 5. There's potentially hundreds of thousands of combinations of test questions. The only thing you can know for sure is the breakdown. In other words, you can know the most heavily tested section in every state, every day, is what's called safety and infection control. You can know that there are 10 questions on hair coloring and 10 questions on chemical services. And this comes as a big shock to barber students who tell us every day, I felt like I was taking a cosmetology exam. Yeah, because your teacher completely skipped over the chapter on chemical services, meaning permanent waves, chemical relaxers, soft curl perms, curl reformations, and the hair color, bleach, double process, semi-permanent, demi-permanent. The barber instructors manage to miss these 2 chapters all the time, which might explain why the barber pass rate is 30%. In other words, 3 out of 10. Every day, 10 barber students walk in and 3 come out with a license. If you want to pass your test, get our book, www.cosmetologystateboardexam.com, or give us a call, 760-534-4434. It's available in both English and Spanish. Watch our videos, go to our website, take our free practice test, and pass your test the next time you take it. I'll see you soon.